Hey story fans. Welcome to Blow Up, where we unpack the wildest stories Reddit has to offer. Today we've got 5 insane tales, think pointless reports, dumb policies, clueless bosses, and a customer getting what he begged for. These are all about people sticking it to the system, one petty move at a time. We're diving into workplace revenge, tech trickery, and more. Stick around, it's gonna blow your mind. Let's roll. I used to work at a large telecommunications company. Above me was my manager, Albert. Above him manager Barry, above him senior manager Colette, not their real names. My job was to provide management reporting, which I did largely through Excel, with some fairly fancy graphs, some macros and an array of formulae, including some array formulae. Colette was a young, ambitious manager who knew how to network, say the right things to the right people, and sound confident whether or not she had any clue about whatever she was managing. Consequently, she'd been over-promoted, Peter Principal style, to a role she struggled with. But due to her nature, she continued to act as if she was in control, and wanted to show her excellent management. One of her traits, which I'd witnessed on rare occasions where I, as the data expert in my area, had been invited into a meeting with her to help explain some data issues, was that her reaction to hearing problems was to decide on the spot she needed something to be done and that she needed to be kept informed of progress on a weekly basis. This might make sense for a serious issue, but not for a minor issue which she should just have trusted lower-level staff to deal with. Barry was an experienced, ambitious middle manager who wanted promotion to senior management. In his view, and he was probably correct, the way to his goal of promotion was to tell Colette everything she wanted to hear. If Colette had a target to reach 1,000 widgets, Barry would tell her we'd made 1,000 widgets. Whether or not we had. Albert had worked at the company for 25 years. He was good at his job but past caring about fighting to do a good job and just wanted an easy time as he eyed up retirement. If Barry asked him for something daft, he'd say it was daft, but if Barry still wanted it, then he'd instantly capitulate. And at the bottom of the chain, I actually made the reports they wanted. They had no idea how I do this. It's an era where managers in their 40s and 50s grew up without computers, and can barely sum a few numbers in Excel without help. They think all the pretty graphs and macros and calculated cells are bona fide magic and have no comprehension of whether a task takes 10 minutes or 10 hours, whether it is manual or automatic. I hated it whenever they had a meeting and Colette would require a new report on something as a knee-jerk reaction. I knew that 90% of the time, by the end of the week, she'd forgotten she'd asked for it, and if the problem wasn't that bad, she'd never even look at them unless it was raised afresh in a new meeting. This particular year I was extra busy. We'd had redundancies due to the global financial crisis, so I was doing about 2 roles at once, and Albert tells me that Barry told him that in their managers' meeting, Colette said she needed a new report, run weekly, that shows which the top 3 colors of widgets are. I explained to Albert the colors are irrelevant, it's just whatever color comes from the supplier, and they're buried in the ground so no one sees them anyway. So Colette can't possibly need to care about that at a senior level. Albert agrees, says he's already explained that to Barry, but Barry said that Colette wanted it, so we have to make it anyway. So I make the report. It takes about 40 minutes to run each week because it's a slightly fiddly manual copy and paste from a system we have no budget to automate and export. I put it in the shared folder where Colette can access it, and send an email to all 3 of them with a link to the folder. For 8 weeks I do that and I hear no mention of it from anyone. I suspect no one is looking at it because Colette probably forgot she asked for it 10 minutes after the meeting in which she asked for it. I explained to Albert the first don't have time to keep making these when no one is looking at them anyway. I have other more important things and they'll be late or low quality if I waste time on this. I have too much on, so can I stop making this report? No, because Barry doesn't want to stop making something Colette asked for. You need to keep making the report. Even though it's not useful anyway? They're probably not even looking at it. Yes, you have to keep making the file weekly. In the folders so far. Widget color report week 1.xls, widget color report week 2.xls, widget color report week 3.xls, widget color report week 4.xls, widget color report week 5.xls, widget color report week 6.xls, widget color report week 7.xls, widget color report week 8.xls. What a productive 5 hours spent making all those, I think. 8 files full of pretty graphs that no one will look at. Might as well not have anyth. That week I get a blank Excel file. I change the text to bold, red, font size 18. Right in the middle of sheet 1 I write, error with data upload. Data link failed. Error code 2387 AGT, then I go to save as and save it in the folder. Widget color report week 9.xls. I mean technically I still made a report, right? Because there it is right there in the folder. A week goes by. Nothing said. I copy file v9, paste it in the folder and rename the 9 to 10 widget color report week 10.xls, another blank Excel file just saying error with data upload. Data link failed. Error code 2387 AGT. After about 5 months of copying that same file, doing my 40-minute report in 4 seconds in what is one of my most efficient pieces of work ever, I finally get Albert to review my workload, and he agrees something needs to stop. In addition to some reports I really do make, that really do take time and I get to drop, I casually mention, oh, and there's that weekly widget color report. I know Barry still wants it, but I just realized yesterday that there's some problem with the data upload and it's not been working the last few weeks. They don't seem to have noticed though, so perhaps they're not actually looking at it. Albert believes the line about the fictional data upload as it's all technical wizardry to him, so just agrees and says okay, stop making it, and if Barry asks for it again we'll have to investigate the problem with this data upload. I'm confident we can fix it if needed, probably just needs a bit of Ctrl-C Ctrl-V work done on it. I grin. Talk about a genius move. This Redditor turned a pointless 40-minute chore into a 4-second copy-paste scam. Absolute legend status. Collette's out there playing boss like she's on a reality show, while Albert's just counting down to his pension and Barry's kissing up harder than a vacuum cleaner. And those error codes? Chef's kiss, fake enough to fool, real enough to flex. I'm cackling imagining Colette opening one of those files, squinting at error 2387 AGT, like it's ancient hieroglyphs. Bet she didn't even notice her precious widget colors were MIA for 5 months. How would you dodge a dumb task like this? Fake an error or just keep grinding? Ever pulled a sneaky move on a clueless boss? Tell me in the comments, did you outsmart them or did they catch on and make your life hell? Spill it, I'm all ears. That was some next level Excel wizardry, but hold tight. Our next story's about a software engineer who killed a ridiculous rule by following it way too well. Let's jump into this tech rebellion. What happens when a rule's so dumb it can't be followed? This Redditor said bet, followed it to AT and watched the whole thing crash and burn. Stick around for this policy smackdown. My department, 200 software engineers, instituted a policy: all code changes must be installed on all servers within 2 weeks, or have manager approval. Context: I work in software at large companies. Eventually, software that is written needs to be deployed to a computer somewhere. Software changes are one of the biggest reasons for bugs or outages. But the way many software companies work is every change increments a version number. Think, I'm deploying version 111 to a server somewhere, and if the previous version that was deployed was version 101, that means 10 changes are going out. If one of them fails, we basically need to sift through the changes to find the bug and revert the changes. Deploying regularly is good practice and keeps the amount of code being deployed low and allows us to quickly identify failures. Problem: it was literally impossible to follow this rule as simple code changes implied greater than 100 deployments. If this sounds insane, it is, but only because it wasn't automated. This meant that pretty much any change required manager approval. I called this out and suggested changing the code such that we could make changes to individual systems at a time. 3 months of work. This was not funded by management. The malicious compliance. I blocked literally every change because we're not following policy, and made them ask for manager approval. This forced managers to confront the unfollowable policy and to understand the complexity of what they were asking. But they kept approving changes anyway. So I kept it up. Every change was going to follow this policy. Then management would be forced to 1. Approve the change anyway, 2. Invest in the code changes to isolate services, or 3. Abandon the policy. While there was an initiative for automation, time to delivery was long and only reduced the number of manual actions to about 30. After 9 months and dozens of overrides, a new initiative that was critical required rapid changes. I made a document outlining how many times the policy had been overridden, what could be done to follow the policy, but ultimately recommended that we either invest now in the changes to allow this to work, slow down the critical project to follow policy, or abandon it. It was abandoned star. The aftermath: I received an exemplary performance review, with people noting my commitment to quality and a champion of this policy. TLDR. Management made a policy that was fine on paper but impossible given current circumstances, and required approval to deviate from the policy. So I forced them to approve literally everything, documented it all, and used the documentation and a critical project to get the policy killed. This is peak petty. Our hero here turned a brain-dead policy into a 9-month-long game of chicken, and won. Management thought they could flex with their 2-week rule, but nah, this Redditor flipped the script and made them drown in their own approvals. The best part? They got a gold star for quality, while secretly laughing at the chaos. Imagine the managers' faces when that critical project hit and they had to admit their rule was trash, priceless. How would you kill a dumb rule? Stick to it like glue or just ignore it? Ever made management eat their own words like this? Drop your stories below. Did you win big or crash and burn? Let's hear it. From software sabotage to a boss who thought he knew tech, our next tale's about a repair guy who let his manager's ego fix a printer the hard way. Let's dive in. Think your boss is a know-it-all? This tech guy's manager thought he could outsmart him on a printer fix. Spoiler, he didn't. Stay tuned for this epic takedown. Recently my friend told me a story from his life that's a perfect fit for malicious compliance, and I decided to share it from his perspective. This happened about 5 years ago when I was working at a small tech repair shop. Our boss was this guy named Sergey, a classic control freak who thought being the boss made him smarter than everyone else. He didn't know squat about tech but loved sticking his nose in and telling us how to do our jobs. Usually, us guys in the shop would just nod and do it our way, but this time I decided to play by his rules, and here's what came of it. We got an order to fix an old industrial printer. Rare beast, bulky, barely any manuals, but I'd worked on a couple before so I knew right away what was wrong. A clog in one of the feed gears and a worn-out belt. Disassemble, clean, swap a few parts, 5 hours tops. I laid out the plan for Sergey, he listened, then launched into his usual, "No, you don't get it, it's an electrical issue, you need to check the board, test everything with a multimeter, I'm the boss here, do it my way." I tried explaining it was mechanical, but he started yelling that I was young, cocky, and clueless, and if I didn't follow his orders I could go home without pay. Fine, I thought, you're the boss, you know best. Grabbed the multimeter, took the printer apart down to the last screw, and started testing every circuit on the board, exactly like he told me. It was slow, tedious, and totally pointless because I knew from the start the board wasn't the issue. But I didn't just test it, I documented everything for a report, wrote down readings, snapped pics of every step, even sketched diagrams so Sergey could see how obedient I was. Took me 2 full days when I could have fixed the thing in half a day. Finally, I stroll up to him with a stack of papers and say, "Sergey, checked it all, board's fine, what now?" He turned red as a beet. The client had already called, furious about the delay. At that point he figured I'd sabotaged him on purpose, though he dug his own grave, and barked at me to deal with the mechanic since you're so smart. I shrugged, went back, cleaned the gears, swapped the belt, the stuff I'd planned to do all along. A day later the printer was done, client was happy, but Sergey looked like he'd been through a week-long spin cycle. After that he tried bossing me around a couple more times, but I'd just ask, "Like with that printer your way?" And he'd shut up real quick. Moral of the story, sometimes it's better to let someone dig their own hole than argue. I knew I was right, but I complied out of spite, and he ended up screwing himself. Still crack up thinking about his face after that report. Oh man, Sergey got played like a fiddle. This Redditor's "yes, boss" attitude turned a 5-hour fix into a 2-day circus, complete with a report thicker than a phone book. I'm dying at the mental image of Sergey fuming, red-faced, while the client's on the line yelling. And that "like with the printer" line? Savage comeback of the year. This guy's a hero for anyone stuck with a micromanaging moron. How would you handle a boss this clueless? Follow orders to mess with them or just fix it quick? Ever made a manager regret doubting you? Hit the comments. Did you get revenge or just grit your teeth? Let's swap war stories. That was a boss implosion for the ages, but now let's rewind to 1980. Our next story's about a coder who turned a dumb trend into a hilarious hack. Get ready. Imagine your boss banning a coding basic in 1980. Sounds nuts, right? This software engineer found a loophole so clever it fooled everyone. Stick around for this retro gem. 45 years ago, I spent a few months as a software engineer for a Midwest company that built industrial control systems. Writing assembler for an embedded micro. Management had gone to a seminar on structured design, the latest software trend, and got religion. My manager, Jerry, called me into his office and asked to see my work. He was not a programmer, but sure. Whatever, here you go. I handed him my listing about a half-inch thick and forgot all about it. A few days later, he called me into his office, which always reeked of cigarette smoke. "You've got some work to do," he snapped, furious. I looked down at his desk and my 8085 macro assembler listing was heavily annotated in red pencil, with every jump instruction circled. "This is now a go-to-less shop. You've got to get these out of here." "Jerry, this is assembler code. That's different from a high-level language. I don't want a bunch of goddamn excuses. You have 2 weeks. Well shoot. This is ridiculous." I stared at the code for a while, then got a flash of inspiration and set to work. Every place there was a jump, conditional or unconditional, I put the target address into the HL register, did an SPHL to copy it to the stack pointer, then did a return followed by a form feed and a title block, describing the new module. The flow of control was absolutely unchanged, although with a few extra instructions it was marginally slower. The machine was controlling giant industrial batching equipment, so that wouldn't matter. I dropped the listing, now almost 2 inches thick, onto Jerry's desk and went home. He would either spot the joke and respond with anger or, hopefully, be convinced that I had magically converted the program into a proper structured design application. Some of those title blocks were pretty fanciful. He bought it. Suddenly I was an expert software engineer versed in Jordan and Constantine principles, and the application made it into distribution. Around the same time, I quit to work full-time on my engineering textbook and other fun projects, and forgot all about it, until about 3 years later when I was pedaling across the United States on a computerized recumbent bicycle. I got a message from a new employee of the company who was charged with maintenance of the legacy system, and he was trying to make sense of my listing. I called him back from a payphone in Texas. He sounded bewildered. "Did you write this? What are you, I don't understand. Like, what are you actually doing here?" "There's only one thing you have to know," I said, then went on to relate the tale of Jerry and the structured design hack. By the end he was practically rolling on the floor and told me they had long since fired that guy. He now shared my secret about virtual software modules and promised not to tell. But it's been almost a half a century, so I guess it's okay now. This guy's a coding ninja from the 80s. Jerry's no jumps rule was dumber than a bag of hammers, but our Redditor turned it into a 2-inch thick prank that actually shipped. I'm howling at those fake modules. He basically gift-wrapped nonsense and Jerry ate it up. And then biking across the US while the new guy's like, "What even is this?" Legendary exit strategy. How would you trick a boss stuck on a trendy idea? Fake it like this or call their bluff. Ever pulled a stunt this bold at work? Drop it below. Did you fool him or flop? I need details. From retro coding hacks to modern customer chaos, our next story's about a phone rep who gave a whiny guy exactly what he demanded. Let's see how this explodes. Ever had a customer demand the impossible? This phone rep dealt with a tantrum-throwing Kevin and flipped his contract right back in his face. Wait for the twist. About 2 years ago I had a customer complain that we had raised the price of his phone contract. I work for one of the main UK mobile phone companies here as a customer service rep. I've had my fair share of terrible customers and ridiculous requests. But this was the straw that broke my back. So every year we have a price increase in March. It's the rate of inflation as published in November plus 3.9%. This is in all contracts. Has been for as long as I've worked there. Every year we send a letter out in February to let people know. And every year we get calls asking, "WTF is this?" Most of the time I deal with these fairly well. I explain they agreed to it in their contract, and occasionally read the exact part of said contract. What makes it more delicious is if they've bought it in store they have a physical copy. So I ask, "Do you see where you signed your name in the box that says, 'I have read and understand the terms and conditions of the contract'?" Well, just above there the box above that says, "I understand that as of March the price will increase by the rate of CPI plus 3.9%? And that normally ends those arguments. Well, one day I'd spent all day dealing with these calls. And I get a guy call. Let's call him Kevin. He complains about the price increase, saying how he never agreed to it in his contract. That his contract says it's, let's say, £30. And that's what he agreed to. No more. No less. He would never agree to something where the price was going to change. After the normal back and forth of explaining it, how all companies do it, not just us, petrol, food shops, books. Everything. But he was having none of it. Around about the time most people accept and give up he was still going strong. Going in loops repeating the same arguments I've shot down already. At one point he says he never read it so it shouldn't apply. I asked him, "Sir, if you don't read the 30 miles per hour speed limit sign and do 70 miles per hour there, you will still get stopped by the police. Just because you didn't read it doesn't mean it's not correct. Besides, you signed the box saying that you had read it, so I'm afraid you were aware of it." Now, that was perhaps me allowing my emotions to get in the way, but he did not like that at all. He said if he doesn't get the contract reverted to what he agreed, he would cancel his direct debit and see us in court. Cue malicious compliance. I noticed earlier during the conversation that his contract was actually £60 and that his first 3 months were half price. But the agent who added the discount added an undated 50% discount, instead of the 3 MHP discount that auto removes. Well, Given the call was an hour long and I was overdue my break, I finally said, "Okay, sir. On this occasion, I am willing to waive the price increase for you and revert your plan to its original, agreed-upon price. Because I can't stop the increase, I will add a discount of his increase here to the line, and as you've stated, your plan to be put back to what you agreed to. So the 50% discount you have has now been removed, the plan is back to £60. He tries to talk, but don't worry, sir. We won't be making you repay the backdated discount from the last 12 months. That's not how it works here. So I can confirm that your plan will remain at the agreed price of £60. After a stunned silence, he recovers and asks, "What do I mean £60? I explained that he agreed to a contract at £60 per month, with 3M half price. But that the wrong 50% discount had in fact been added and had been left on longer than was intended. He told me to leave it alone, not do anything, but it was too late. He had already confirmed he wanted it. And even if he hadn't, we have a system in place to report excessive or incorrect discounts, which I pooled have been reporting him on. But this was much more enjoyable. In the end it was escalated to manager, who stuck by my actions to remove the incorrect discount, and in fact, removed my discount for the CPI as its policy not to discount these. It went above her to the executive complaints team, who I followed up with and noticed he was given a letter of deadlock that he could try taking to Ofcom. It felt great. The guy had an incredibly poor attitude, spoke to me like I was his to do with as he wanted, and wanted to spit his day out in a tantrum. I claimed the victory in the name of those who work in a role with direct customer interactions, when they've treat you like nothing and were truly horrible people. Kevin, my dude, you just got served. This rep's patience snapped harder than a twig, and I'm here for it. Turning a £30 whining fest into a £60 reality check? That's malicious compliance gold. The speed limit comeback was savage too. Kevin thought he could outsmart a contract he didn't even read. I bet he's still muttering, but I said £30 while Ofcom laughs him off. Customer service revenge at its finest. How would you deal with a Kevin? Give him what he wants or hang up? Ever turned a customer's tantrum back on them? Share below. Did you win or just dream of it? I need your best clapbacks. Kevin's contract chaos was a riot, but we're not done. Our last story still TBD. Got a wild tale for us? For now, let's placeholder it and wrap up this madness. That's a wrap for today's blow-up madness. From Excel hacks to contract karma, these stories were wild. Loved it? Smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell. We've got more coming. Got a petty revenge tale? Drop it below. I might feature it next time. Thanks for watching, you legends. See you soon.